Hi, everybody. So I'm having some trouble with the Instagram hookup. So just give me a minute or two to try to set this up, and I will be right back. And I'm very sorry about that. Music will come back on. It's not working. So those of you who are on Instagram, I'm sorry to say, you're only seeing my face. You're not seeing the incredible I thought, slides that I built for this event. But, thank you for being here anyway. And we're just going to get it going and see how it happens. I believe if people chat over the app of Instagram, I'll see it directly on the Instagram. If you do it on LinkedIn, I believe it'll show up in this cool background tool that's not working right. Same thing for Facebook. And also, I know there are some folks who just went straight through the Restream app. And so hopefully that'll work as well. But we're just going to make this thing work. You don't need the slides to get the idea. So thanks for joining me. I'm Rosie Kennedy, Rosella Kennedy, the founder of Brave Sis Project. And some of you know me and some of you don't. And you're wondering, why is she doing this? And, in my day job and in my work in the DEI aligned space, I'm asked a lot about issues related to inclusion and intersectionality. And I really want to have a platform to go further than DEI, because DEI itself is just sort of not really doing it for a lot of us. It's great performance and great starting point. But really, I was talking with someone recently, a white woman, and she said, I really think we should have a longer conversation, because I just have so much diversity fatigue. And that just really hit me like a jolt to the stomach, because, obviously, as a Black woman or a woman of color, or really, the conversation can extend to almost any intersectionality, right? We don't get a choice about when we want to drop out or get overwhelmed or fatigued. And so I thought this would be an interesting point to start off with, having a conversation that went from, someone feeling really comfortable and committing what I thought was kind of a faux pas, to how can we move more towards a more conversation that's courageous and honest. And so this is I'm gonna sort of do a little bit of a lecture. And again, this will be recorded. If you're in a platform or channel and you see that you're not with a lot of people, in theory, I'm broadcasting this to 4 different channels at once. So hopefully you will know that other people are tuning in as well, and people will pop in and out, and it will be recorded and put on the website as well. So, there's a quote from this book. Oh, wait, before I even do that, I want to say that I feel, who is this for? This conversation is for Black women, first of all, like me, who are really trying to stay strong and stay true, and just starting to feel a little overwhelmed and kind of over the whole idea of how much do we have to do to create unity, or to even have safe space or courageous space, much less beloved community with white women. We've seen so much backsliding, we've seen so much negativity, and yet there's still a lot of good out there. So a lot of that starts for us who are like, how do we hold on? How do we not roll our eyes so far in the back of our head that we go blind, right? And how do we continue to model within our own selves how we can be more compassionate, more aware, more beloved, even towards other women of color. I think that's really important. Um, I think it's for also all women of color, Black, Brown, Asian, and Indigenous, which is a big part of Brave Sis Project and what I do, which is really like, how do we create a community where we see each other's gifts and strengths and history. And like those of you who know Brave Sis Project and know my book, Our Brave Four Mothers, celebrating 100 Black, Brown, Asian, and Indigenous women who changed the course of history, you know that that's the idea behind that. And when I say women, I'm being really broad. I mean, anyone who identifies as a woman or non-binary, or even men, because I know a couple of guys signed up. Brave Bros is real. Those of you who know the journal that I create, the Brave Sis Journey Journal, or the Brave Sis Perpetual Journal, also know that a big piece of this is celebration, getting awareness of people who have done amazing things because of the prevailing narratives in our, white supremacist culture. Their stories are not very well known and shared. And so that's another group that this is for, us celebrating each other. This gathering and these conversations are clearly also for white women, both those who need to do the work for themselves and commit to the work and keep doing the work, and also those who are, somewhat on the path and really want to like grow in allyship, right? And so the quote that I'll start on, and those of you who are not on Instagram and can see my cute slides, what I wanted to start was a quick quote from this book, The White Ally Tool Kit Workbook, which I really recommend. Here, I'll hold it up again if anyone wants to, take a screenshot or anything. It's a really good book for white wannabe allies, but it also is very illustrative for all of us. Anyway, the author says it would be neither fair nor feasible for people of color to carry the burden of having these conversations. There are not enough people of color, or alternatively, there are too many white folks for that to work. And people of color are increasingly fatigued by educating white people. They are already dealing with the additional burden of actually coping with racism. Now, I know that we know that that is true. And that was one of the reasons why I wanted to bring us together in conversation and just start to seed more conversations that I hope we can continue on the various Brave Sis platforms as well. And so I've gone to the second slide for those of you who can't see it. I'm going to show you a picture. That's what it looked like with all my notes. And so I think, in building Brave Sis Project, which I started 4 years ago as a journal, and it's evolved to being also the sistery lessons on social media, and now more of these sort of facilitations. And I am live, and I don't know why it's not showing up on your Facebook. I'm sorry. I just got a text from someone. Go to Instagram if you can, and if not, it'll be saved on the platform later. I'm going to keep going for now. So the ultimate goal here in Brave Sis Project that I have tried to create now with the facilitations and the events and the conversations is something that I call the beloved community. And I won't go into that too deep right now. because I want to get into more substantive conversations. But someone asked me the other day, well, Rosie, the beloved community comes out of the faith tradition. Are you trying to do something religious? And I said, no, I really consider this is a secular ministry, right? But it does feel holy. Like if we can find ways to transcend bad narratives and stupid knee-jerk reactions, get out of our blind spots and mindset, challenges, I really do believe that we can build and be better with each other. And that's not just, a big piece of the work does fall on the shoulders of white women, let's be honest, because you have adjacency to white men, which is all of the power in our society, but also you have adjacency to other white women. And I think the thing that I want to say about that on this slide again, and I'm so sorry, I'm going lo-fi for those of you who aren't, on Instagram and not seeing all my cute slides. Why keep going? Why even do this? In 2024, 4 years after George Floyd, when it was all the rage to be like the greatest white friend you could possibly be, and Black friends were having 100,000 million people in our emails, and are you okay? And oh, how can I be a better friend? And now 4 years later, it's like flat. Why do you want to keep going? Because this is the only way we're going to make it as a society, right? As a human group of people. And one of the challenges that I know that a lot of white women want to be allies or would be allies is one of the things. No, sorry, just lost Insta there. One of the things that I know is really difficult is feeling like really tensed up or worried or nervous or unhappy about this. You've got to remember that people who walk in black skin don't get to choose, right? How we react. We are confronted with it every day. So if you think you're someone's friend and you want to be your friend, it's going to require some work on your side as well. The work is twofold: yourself, as I said, and also dealing with the skeptics, right? The racial skeptics, or even worse, the unconcerned, the no longer concerned. And that feels like a really important piece to begin to have a conversation about. And when I think about this is not DEI, right? DEI is about checklists and like compliance and creating workplace, for the most part, workplace comfort. And I'm really trying to get at, what do we do in our personal spaces of our heart? An important thing I also want to add, and again, I'm going to do the lo-fi and show the slide again, this one. I want to build fellowing between myself and other people of color that isn't just about accomplishing a task. That's where it moves from the workplace to like your real life. And hold on a second. Sorry, I'm getting lots of messages. Okay, that's where it moves from the workplace to real life, right? And so the thing that is really interesting that I want to ask folks who are listening in to think about is, have you had an experience, and this is like for white women, but also for us women of color across the line, right? Have you had an experience where you really built a strong and true friendship across cultures? What made it happen? And what did you have to overcome? And what bumps on the road did you encounter along the way, and how did you persevere? And conversely, have you ever had an experience where you've lost someone, on a friend of another race or culture? And what made that happen? And was there a chance that there could have been dialogue or action that would have made the outcome different? And so that's something that I invite you all to just think about in your personal space. If you have a journal, such as mine, you can write about it. Last year, I hosted Syra Rao and Regina Jackson of the White Women book and the Deconstructing Karen film in Seattle. And I asked Syra that question because she talked about losing white friends as she became more aware of the impossibility of playing a specific role as the best brown friend. And I asked her if, some of those women did come back in her life and what did it take to get them back in. And her response was, I don't care if they come back. Why do I need them? And that's her prerogative. For me, who grew up among, in white communities, and someone who I think speaks fluent white progressive, but clearly is a Black woman, it is important to me. And one of the things that I believe was happening a lot is people were asking me again and again to sort of be the Black splainer and to like help me understand this. And you know I think that's one of the pieces that started to influence Brave Sis Project and what I was trying to do. It's like, I don't want to just keep having this conversation one to one. I want us to start talking to each other. I don't hold any answers, I just hold lived experience. And I just hold lived experience and bad situations that I've had to live through. And so another reason not to give in to diversity fatigue is that you don't want your behavior to reflect or infer white privilege and tone deafness. And there's the little lo-fi picture for that for the Instagram folks. And again, I'm really sorry about this tech. You don't know how many hours and nights I spent trying to get this right. But, and clearly it didn't work. But that's okay. One of the things that I think is really useful to think about, and if you are commenting, I'm afraid I can't see the comments, so I'll have to try to take a minute at the end and see if there are any popping in the channels here. But I wish this weren't just such a one-way conversation, but we'll do more of these. It'll get better over time and it'll work better. But I was reading recently the 1989 unpacking article, Unpacking the Invisible Backpack. And I do a workshop around the privilege staircase as well. And the thing that's so interesting with the narratives that we have, I believe, that are so generic, that was the whole point behind starting Brave Sis Project. I wanted to create a journal, and I didn't want all of the, I'm glad to hear it's working on LinkedIn, and that's great. That may be the best channel survivor here. But one of the things that I was thinking about when I started Brave Sis Project was I wanted a journal for myself. I wanted to be able to have accountability to myself, and having to shoehorn or asterisk myself into these books that were so clearly created for white women, size zero, bamboo pants, yoga, namaste, appropriation of Indian culture on the beach. It really made me mad. And I was like, why is it that I always have to asterisk myself into the story? Why is representation so low? And then the Black women journals were like, many of you have heard me say this, gigantic, elaborate afros and you go girl and beautiful. And then you open it and every page was generic and blank. And the same, which is a disgraceful bait and shift, bait and switch. As fully agenced people that I believe we all should be in this society, you want to see things that look like you. And so that is a really interesting conversation for people to think about in terms of privilege, right? And again, this is not only about white privilege, although that is the blueprint, and racism is the blueprint for all of the isms and all of the intersectional discriminations that we see. That's the original sin. But let me just read you really quickly a couple of things here. And again, this is going to be recorded. You can come back. I'm sorry, I'm just talking out at you so much. I am doing more and more sort of convenings and things that we'll talk about at the end. That'll be more collaborative. So hopefully it won't be just my voice. I'm going to read this from the backpack. I can, if I wish, arrange to be in the company of people of my race most of the time. If I should need to move, I can be pretty sure of renting or purchasing housing in an area which I can afford and in which I would want to live. I can be pretty sure that my neighbors in such a location will be neutral or pleasant to me. I can go shopping alone most of the time, pretty well assured that I will not be followed or harassed. Now, on that one, some of you remember maybe when Oprah Winfrey went to visit the late Tina Turner in Switzerland, where Tina lived, and she went to the Hermes store, and she was looking at the Birkin bags. And the Birkin bags, the iconic bags, right? And the woman who owned the store said, "Oh, madam, let me take you and show you the cheaper ones. I know you can't afford these." And Oprah was like, "Oh, I can afford this." And she goes, "Oh, no, 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 no. I think you're mistaken, ma'am. I want to." And so, that was a whole controversy, maybe like 6 or 7 years ago. What happened was when it got out in the media, the white store owner played the victim. I think if you know this story and you're on LinkedIn, give me a thumbs up or say, yes, I remember, because that seems to be the only chat that I'm seeing. um, and so what happened was the generic narrative was that the white woman's tears and discomfort were more important than the absolute outrage of, typecasting Oprah. And I mean, if Oprah cannot buy a Birkin bag in peace, if Serena Williams and Beyonce cannot give birth and have birth complications and be taken seriously by their doctors and not risk losing their life, what happens to people like me? What happens to people like the other women of color, for real, for real? And if you think that that is an obscene offense, then you are on your way to, being that good ally. Let's go back to this list, but I'm going to say another thing too that I forgot to mention. Someone said to me recently, well, as your ally, da 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 da. And I have had this conversation with many friends across all racial, and cultural existences. My white friends, you don't get to say that you are an ally. Allyship is not something that you proclaim. It is something that is conferred upon you by the people with whom you wish to ally. Think about that in terms of feminism, if it's too hot to deal with in the general concept. You would not want a man to say, I'm a feminist. You need proof. And then you can say, dude, you are acting like a feminist. Hold those parallels in mind as you think about how to continue overcoming your diversity fatigue. Let me read a few more from the article, if I may. I can turn on the television or open the front page of the paper and see people of my race widely represented in a positive fashion. I can be sure my children will be given curricular materials that testify to the existence of their race. Hello, Florida School Board. I can go into the hairdresser shop and find someone who can cut my hair. I can swear or dress in secondhand clothes or not answer letters without having people attribute these choices to bad morals, poverty, or the illiteracy of my people. Now, this one is also important to me. Anytime I go anywhere in sweatpants and just like I've been gardening, I am treated like I am either I have been solicited by men driving in their car, or I've been talked down to or treated poorly. And I want to share that personal story because those of you who know me will find that really, really shocking. That's because you've already accepted me into the whiteness because I'm your friend. And the call and the question around overcoming diversity fatigue is how you're going to extend that grace one step further out to people who you don't know. You never know what someone is holding inside in their day. And so it's important, again, to open up your mindset and not let yourself be subjected to typical thinking. There's so many more of these that I could read from this article, but I'll just read a few more. I can do well in a challenging situation without being called a credit to my race. I'm never asked to speak for all the people in my racial group. And if a traffic cop pulls me over, I can be sure I haven't been singled out because of my race. And I will also say that when I am pulled over, which hasn't happened in a while, I absolutely and totally flip out. And that's really too bad because I'm a highly educated, credentialed person, but I am still a person who lives in highly melanated skin. We don't have time to talk about white saviorism. We'll have to do another live, and hopefully I can complain to the company about why this app didn't work. But that was the cute slide that went with that. one. I want to keep us moving. Let's see, where am I with all these slides? Okay. No, I'm going to go to this one instead. Sorry, folks. I'm going to talk a little bit about standing up. And I hope you're finding this, an interesting sort of set of things to think about, right? I want to begin to amass the tools and courage to intervene. So, when it comes to allyship, and those of you who, again, I'm going to refer back to this book, The White Ally Toolkit Workbook. The author speaks about several things that you can do when you are confronted as an aspiring ally or a bridger as opposed to a breaker, to use the language of the Othering and Belonging Institute. When you are confronted, there are two types of people, there are three types of people that I think allies or, folks who are trying to overcome diversity fatigue have to think about besides themselves. One is like all of the people of color around them. How authentic are you showing up, and how much trust and reliance have you been graced with, have you built, have you earned? The other is like white people who are racist, and they're all over the place, right? Those are really difficult to deal with, of course. But the third, and this is where I think the sweet spot is for a lot of you all and us collectively, are the skeptics or the unconcerned, right? Who are just like, I did this thing, I put up my black square, I cared for George Floyd, blah, blah, blah. I received a lot of this, not to go down a rabbit hole, but I received a lot of that language in early October regarding the Hamas attack and the invasion of Gaza. Rosie, I stood up for you when it was George Floyd. Why are you being, why aren't you standing up for me now? I'm not going to even address that, except to say tit for tat really showed me that the friendship was completely transactional. And so that's a fail, and that's beyond diversity fatigue. That's just like a straight up fail. If you were in your ally shoes trying to have a conversation with a skeptic or unconcerned, this author in this book gives several really good pieces of advice. We don't have time to get into all of them now, but I'm just going to give you a few. The first is, don't think of these difficult conversations as a battle to win, but rather a collaboration to birth. And that's really important in movement spaces. I've been on the negative receiving end of that. Of course, we're fired up. Of course, we're angry. Of course, we're incensed. It doesn't win. It never, ever, ever wins. I think we know that now. We need a much more subtle approach and a much more loving approach, regardless on how heinous the conversation may be. There's still a human being under there. Can they be reached? So accept their innate integrity as a human being. Listen to them and validate what they're saying and reflect it back. I understand how you could feel, how you could be led to feel that way. I recognize your right to having your beliefs. Here's why I see it differently. Here's the lived experience that made me have a different point of view. Again, we don't have time to go into all of this today, unfortunately. As you see, these topics, and if we were being interactive and really convening, this would be a much deeper set of concepts to think about. But I'm moving to the next slide. I want to be a leader and a model, right, to other dominant culture people, leveraging my positional power and societal privilege. So a couple of don'ts and several do's. I'm just blasting through this really quickly. This is much more nuanced conversation in a different format. Don't stand by in silence. Don't walk away in fear, right? That, like, because I usually cannot stand by in silence. I'm usually confronted in such a way that I have to use all of my de-escalation skills that I may have built. So if I have to do it as a Black woman, don't make me have to do all the work, right? Like white ally friends and wannabe ally friends, get some courage and take a stance calculate your risk, obviously. Use your voice, platform, and proximity proactively. Have that hard conversation with racist Uncle Ernie. And again, I mean, this book, I'm just going to come back to it one more time, has so many good tools in it. And there are others as well, which I totally will welcome you to share in on the social platforms in the follow-up sort of posts that I put about this. And convince a white dude. Convince a white dude. Don't make me have to do all that work. I will tell you a story about that though. And then I'm gonna move through more quickly because I have a few more key points I want to leave you with. So I'll probably blast through the rest of this a little more quickly. I don't want to take too much time for everyone. But I was in New Orleans last fall, and I got my Uber to go to the airport, and the driver was like, looked like a ZZ Top kind of dude, and he got in the car. I got in the car. He said, "Oh," kind of mumbled at me. I got in. Rolling Stones were on, and anyone who has known me for a long time knows that I am a big Rolling Stones fan. I grew up listening to them and following Mick Jagger around, et cetera, et cetera. So I started saying, "Oh, I love this song. I remember when I saw them live." And because I then entered into his space of lived experience, he was intrigued. "Oh, you've seen, oh yeah." And I started telling him my Mick Jagger stories and talking about different songs. He goes, "Oh, well, let's listen to Shattered," and da, da, da. And by the end of the ride, we were laughing and vibing, and I got out of the car, he got out of the car, he hugged me. That was a big, big deal for that dude. That was a big, big deal. And that was just me being me. So I think sports and music, sports used to be the great unifier in that way. And so find the way. I mean, you don't have to, especially as Black and brown women. It is not our job to do this. But because I believe in beloved community, and I really think the only way that we can move from A to B and out of this morass of hatred that we're in is by just trying. You extend the hand of kindness. I see your request to be in the live. I'm going to say no, simply right this second, simply because I'm overwhelmed with the tech. It didn't work right. You're supposed to be, you all on Instagram are supposed to be seeing all these beautiful slides, and you're not. And so if I add one more element to this, the whole thing might break. But I will do more of these because they're kind of fun. And hit me up. Maybe we'll do one together. I'll get into that as well. Anyway, what I wanted to say, I've interrupted myself, is another key piece in talking to Uncle Ernie, your racist Uncle Ernie, is you can stress that you're sharing facts or even the lived experience of people you know and care for, is not trying to like convert them into something else that they're not. I think one of the reasons people speak about diversity fatigue is because it feels controversial, it feels complicated, it feels heavy, and it would just be so much easier just to watch Love is Blind, right? And I think the important piece is to remind folks, I'm speaking out for people I actually know and people you might know too. And I'm not asking you to suddenly become, like the biggest champion of Latinx folks or indigenous folks. I'm not asking you to like move into a new mental community, just asking you to like be a little more generous and open and humane in how you think about actual people that you know, and then not just the people you know, but the people they know and love, because that's what beloved community really is, right? If you want to continue your own personal journey as an evolving ally, and as I said earlier, allyship is not something that you as a white person can proclaim. It has to be conferred onto you. I would say the same for LGBTQIA folks. I'm not going to, I want to say I support my queer brothers, sisters, and folks. But I have to wait for them to tell me, yeah, you're in the room, you're in the house, right? But if you want to begin or continue or deepen or sustain your personal journey as an evolving ally, you got to get yourself right. I mean, that's the whole point that's the origin story of Brave Cis Project, right? Reading about these women who you never heard of, whose stories might be really surprising to you, and you're like, why have they not been more well known? Well, that's because of the society we live in and who gets to count. But once you start to examine those stories and you're inspired by them, suddenly you're like, whoa, there's so many more people I want to know about that I don't know about. How can I be humble in what I assume is important history or knowledge, right? So continue reading, continue learning, journal, their books, their courses. I'm going to put a post of this picture on the Brave Sis social medias, and I'm going to ask folks to like just comment with the things that you that have helped you learn or that help you stay whole in this work. I'd like these conversations to be collaborative over time. And it will help me. It will help me in my employed work as well, which is DEI adjacent or aligned, because I'm always looking for new resources to confer to the folks I work with. But it also just really deepens what we're trying to do here with Brave Sis and this notion of beloved community. A couple of key words that I'm going to throw at you for your fortitude: longevity, resilience, humility, honesty, and daily practice. Like, this work does not ever end. It doesn't end. Don't think it ends. Why would anything end? The only thing that ends is like when life ends, right? And even that, some would say no, it goes on. It's hard work, but I don't get a choice, like I don't get a choice, and other people like me who you care about, we literally don't get a choice. Anyone who is othered in any kind of circle does not have the choice. And so you want to leverage your power to persuade white non-allies that racism is important and that reverse racism isn't a thing. I don't have time to go into the whole spiel around the reverse racism trope that is out there, except to say this is Black History Month or Black Futures Month. Next month is Women's History Month. Every day are these months. And there's a t-shirt I saw the other day that is like, every day is Black History Month. Every day is Black Futures Month. And so someone once said to me, can we do a parade? Can we be in the LGBT, the Pride Parade? And I resisted because I said, we haven't been showing up for the gay community all the rest of the year. And I don't want to be performative and just show up at the parade, the Black Square. Those things are really so 2020. They're really, and also even when they happen, then performativism is really, in my opinion, it's very weak, and it's actually harmful. It's inauthentic. So steer clear of that if you can. The next slide, I want to make lifestyle and personal choices that reflect my passion for racial equity. Get yourself right. Make space to call in the skeptics and the unconcerned. That is the diversity fatigue crew. No, I just don't, let's go golf instead, or let's go shopping, or let's go to the spa, or let's go. I'm not saying every day has to be like a depressed state of like living in all the woes of the world. It's just being sensitive and aware and choosing not to put on blinders. Use story, such as I do in the Brave Sis books. And, here they are again for those who haven't seen them. Use story because story is the best way to convey lessons around life, and to create rapport. And then dig into your own resilience, because it's a long haul. I'm going to post this as well on the socials. I want to support racial justice efforts with money or time, and need more knowledge about how and where to seek and show up. And I ask that we crowdsource those ideas themselves. Something that's happened a lot is people will come to me and say, Rosie, what should I do? What should I go? And I'm like, no. I got enough to do. I'm busy. I have a full-time job. I'm writing new books. I'm doing all sorts of things. I don't have time to be your concierge. So let's support each other, and let's learn together, and let's build more repositories for learning and support. I'm going to blast through the next part, which are reasons why you should get untired. I can't get through to the BIPOC women I want to know, work with, etc. Well, my challenge and question to you is, if you're trying to get out of work friend zone into the real friend zone. Why? Ask yourself why. How important is it? Why is this friendship important? Are you wanting to give or get? Are you hoping to burnish your brand as an ally? As I've said before, you don't get to designate yourself. It is something that is conferred upon you. If we had time, we would talk more about the best Black friend meme of the 1990s in every film that you can think of. Nobody's really interested in playing that role in anyone's life anymore. No one is really interested in being the token friend or the token hire or the token anything. Now, what if you got called out by a person of color and you feel sad and confused? Well, it's not the person's job to relieve you of your feelings, but let's just dive into this for a quick second. And I want to I want to thank Dr. Loretta Ross, who you should go Google if you're not familiar with this MacArthur Genius awardee, Dr. Loretta J. Ross, I believe. She has a proposal to calling out that I really find very useful. And she actually adopted it from a trans man named Lone Tran, but it's called the 5C Continuum. And with respect and gratitude to Dr. Ross, I'll just say what the 5Cs are. The bad one is calling out, which is the publicly shaming. And as I said earlier, in movement spaces and other spaces where it's highly agitated, of course, it feels good to say, gotcha, right? I always say punching someone in the mouth only gets you a bloody knuckles and an enemy. So are there ways to move beyond calling out, which we see is so destructive? And I would say the whole calling out conundrum that we deal with in society right now is a tool of the extreme right wing to keep those of us who are trying to be in progressive spaces fighting with each other so we get distracted and we lose. And we know that's true. We've seen it again and again. I'm 60 years old. I've seen it my whole damn life. So calling out is just really not a winning proposition. And even worse than calling out, she says, is cancellation, getting someone fired or deplatformed in a severe way. We've seen a lot of that. Third C is calling in. You want to pursue accountability, but instead of using anger, shame, and blaming, try. I don't succeed at this either, but try love, or at least respect and grace. That is super hard. And if we had more time, we would just sit in that for a while, but we don't. The fourth C is created by Sonia Renee Taylor, which is calling on, which is just to ask them, can you be better? I'm really focused on beloved space. I really want to have collectivism and I don't want us to break apart. I want bridging. Can you, Dr. Ross often says, she'll just say, I beg your pardon. I don't know if that's the way that everyone would say it, but it's just like, can we just take a minute to look at that and see if we can find an alternative way to say that, an alternate. And then the fifth C is calling off. You're in charge. You are the boss of you. You can just step away and say, you know what? Not down with this conversation. We're going to take a pause. And then you can come back later and say, this is why I couldn't have that conversation with you. These are the reasons, these are the lived experiences, these are the love connections I have with other people. That's why I just couldn't be in space with you. And I'd love to help have a deeper conversation. But if you're not down for it, we're going to have to just agree to disagree and be real far apart. Okay, so the Karens. I'm embarrassed by all these Karens. I have a couple of friends. I have several. It's a generational name, right? Several white friends named Karen, and they're like, God, please, I'm not that. And I'm like, no, you're not that. But, excuse me. And they sort of say, I don't want to be associated with all of those women just because I'm a white woman. I don't want to be associated with that. And I'm like, I dig it. And when I'm dressed down in sweats and whatnot, I don't want to be associated with whatever narratives are being written about me. But this is the world we live in. We live in a world that is deeply flawed. And everyone should get a sense of that flawedness should be spread out. And we should all have an experience of unfair treatment so we can be more sensitive to when we see it applied to others. It's not about you. Take it up a notch and go higher. Or maybe you made a mistake and you feel ashamed, right? Um, just, you know, shame's part of life. Don't dwell in it so much. Apologize. And don't use it as a reason to step away. Don't let shame or discomfort further enact your diversity fatigue. And just please never use that phrase again. Um, oh, the slides are showing backwards. I cannot show the slides fully on Instagram. To my deep chagrin and waste of much time and some money, I set up a really cool deck thing that was supposed to show these beautiful slides, and I'm in a little box and it's so cute, and it's not working. So I'm just showing you the slides so you get the visual, and I'll put them all on online afterwards, because I can't read them and see them and do all of this at once. I need like an assistant, and my dog refused to be my assistant this morning. This says my kid or some younger person told me I was out of it. And that's really, we see a lot more frankness and honesty coming out of the Gen Z, of which I have two daughters. And it's okay if they tell you, dude, you're so out of touch, you're using this language, it's not good. Learn from them. Have the humility to learn from them, including those of you who are in your 30s and maybe even younger. Gen Alpha's already on the case, and they're doing their learning and their growth. And I think a really important part of continued evolution, whether it's in your ally journey or any journey to be a better person, is to I do this every day. I recognize things that I'm not realizing about my own blind spots, and I'll give you an example. And again, I'm sorry, I'm just talking. I see the chats. I'm overwhelmed with the tech, but we'll have a follow-up. I'll make a thread on the socials and we can carry the conversation on. But so at work, we're always like, for belonging, when we have a Zoom meeting, everyone come on camera. We need to see your faces. And I was doing that to create a sense of comfort, that if you're eating or drinking or whatever, that you don't have to go off cam, right? And I read something this week and I shared it maybe on the socials, I'm not sure, but it was for people who have ADHD or anxiety or neurodivergence. The distraction of being on the camera or seeing all those people can be overwhelming. And so a really interesting tension between trying to create a culture of belonging, normalizing ease and making assumptions about what everyone's wheelhouse and comfort zone and even neurological ability zone is. And that was a real learning for me. I was like, whoa, I stand corrected. I did not think of that. And thank you for making me better. And that's why what I'm trying to do at this iteration of the Brave Sis project is about our collective continued growth. I am no sage. I don't know I only know what I know from what I live and what I read, but you all know what you know from all the things you live and experience. And together, that's what I'm trying to do with beloved community. Together, let's build this. This one says, I'm sick of the status quo. Well, y'all know how easy it is to slide back to status quo. We're coming up on the end of the slides in a few minutes. So you'll hear things like, I can't stand this racist society and the status quo. I can't stand this division. I can't stand the way our country is going. It's against my values. I don't want to be one of those people. I want to fight for justice. I hate it. So if you're sick of the status quo, I would offer, use that energy and fire about it to stay aware, to stay active, to keep learning, to not give in to diversity fatigue, to not tune out, right? And again, if we can start building, spaces on Brave Sis Project is just one thing. There are many, many others. It's my thing, so it's the one I talk about. If we can start to create more repositories for learning, support, dialogue, we have a chance. We have some hope. Um, this is a classic. When I was a teenager, the world was so different. And why has the world changed so much? And yes, we all want to understand why the world has changed so much. I hope our brief time together has helped you start to really remove some blind spots or some easy answers and lean into some of the more, or at least consider leaning into some of the more uncomfortable and edgy but necessary concepts and viewpoints that can stretch you into a place of more awareness and sisterhood. And again, what I call the beloved community. Um, and again, I see a few folks joined. I'm so sorry because I had this really groovy internet um, Instagram thing. It's so cute. I mean, let me see if I can do this. I don't know if I can do this. Yeah. Can I do this? Are you seeing the computer? Look how cute that would have looked on Instagram. It was like so perfect. And it didn't work. So we're doing the lo-fi. I maybe need to get a new iPhone, but that's a lot. That's expensive. So we're just going lo-fi and making it happen with the slides backwards. And those of you on LinkedIn and Facebook can see it all. So yay. I don't understand what I'm doing wrong. That is a really common one, right? Or, I think I'm doing the right things. I understand what's wrong. I don't know what I need to do better. Can you help me understand? I hope this conversation and what we're starting to see with your back and forth again. I can't see I can't see any of the Instagram comments, and I'm seeing a few from the other platforms. Not happy with this tool, Restream. But I hope that what we can start to, forge in these conversations in these spaces can help us on the path. Don't ask a woman of color to do the work and explain for you. Just that if you go away with nothing else today, and that applies to us Black and brown women with each other too. Like, I would not go up to an Asian woman and be like, tell me what it was like for your grandfather when he was interred during World War II. No one exists to be your token. No one exists to be your explainer. No one exists to be your rapid fire education. We have to do this work together collectively. And hopefully, again, this notion of beloved community that I am such a fan of will help us figure out a way to feel more encouraged and connected. Now, those of you who are on the LinkedIn, and I'm wrapping up here. Facebook will see this slide, but those of you who are on Instagram will not, but you will see it on the feed soon. When are we doing this, Emily? On February 13th, Tuesday at 6 p.m. Pacific, I, with my dear friend Emily and my great friend Vanessa and another friend of Emily's who I forget in this moment, are going to have a LinkedIn live conversation called Can We Make This Work? Friendship and Collaboration in Black and White. And that is sponsored by Co-Flow Lab and Brave Sis Project. And it's going to be 2 Black women, a Latina, and a white woman. And we're going to have more of this conversation. And it'll be one platform. So hopefully there'll be no annoyance and craziness around that. So you can check that out. I also, for those of you on the, I got to do a little pitch. For those of you on the other feeds, you will see, and those of you who are on Insta, you've seen it already, Brave Sis Project in honor of Black History Month, Black Futures Month, and Women's History Month are doing 15% off the entire store. So you should go check it out because there's such cute merch. There's the journal, once again, the journal, and other things. They're all 15% off because that's just a nice thing to do. And